I just want to invest in people that really want to be the best that they can be.
Hello, everyone. It's Todd Scrima and Robyn LaVassaur, and we do a podcast, short podcast once a month for branch managers across the country, and this subject is called Bulletproof Leadership. So I'll start with a quick story, and then Robyn can let it rip. So I Summit hired a few big division leaders, right? People that oversee several states. So I'm watching these guys, and very experienced, built billions of production in the past, billions of billions, okay? And so I watch them, I'm like, I'm going to learn from these guys, right? So I watch them, and they do a lot of things that I do. Obviously very in touch with their people. There's a personal relationship. There's personal interest there. They're very humanized, right? But this last, 5 months or something, they hired, I think, 60 loan officers total, 62 or something like that. And I'm like, wow, they're really good at recruiting. How do they do that? So I'm going to tell you what they do is they do a lot of this subject called example leadership. Let me give an example of what they do. There's a big difference. Let's say Robyn is my loan officer and I'm the branch manager. Robyn, go make some calls. Man, there's a bunch of business out there. I know the industry is kind of slow. A lot of people have gotten out. Go make some calls. That's one way of doing it. Here's a totally different way. Hey, Robyn, you know Mike Wood? He's like the number one agent in the county. You and I have lunch with him next Wednesday. What? I cold called him. I said, you're the best loan officer on the planet. You're the best one I got. And we need to meet with you, see if we can make you some money. He said, yes. That's demonstration selling.
Right.
That's example leadership. It's the same. You're saying the same thing. One, you helped them take action. The other one, you were telling someone to take action.
Yeah.
So that's how I see this leadership example. And by the way, there have been, just in full transparency, there's times in my life where I've been really good at this, and there's times where I think I can slack off and not do it.
Yeah.
So I've been guilty of both. So I want to come across authentic. Like there's times where I'm like, whoa, that was a total miss. You could. So anyway, this same group I just talked about, they just got a big builder. They used that builder to recruit a $150 million producer. And they gave the rest of the builder account to 4 other existing loan officers they already employ. Again, another example of example leadership where they got the builder. They totally got the builder. It was all them. They used it to hire a $150 million producer and pump up 4 others that we have. Mm-hmm. So that was another example of example leadership.
Yeah.
Okay? Robyn, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's, what I love where the industry in general is headed, I believe, is value-based. And that makes me super happy because we have been teetering for the last almost 2+ years on commodity-based, right? Very much price-driven, all of these things. And I don't know if you can feel it, Todd, but I can feel it more than ever, where people are saying, hey, I'll go to price if there's not any value. But man, when there's value, people are saying, like, this is where I'm at. It's no different in branch management, right? If a leader is truly being valuable to their people. And a big part of that, let's talk about it, value, time, joy, money. So, hey, time are things like, how do I make sure that my operations, that files, that things are really taken care of for the loan officer alongside them, right? How do we make sure that we're saving time, making sure it's good use of their time? Joy, obviously having some fun, but the one that will stick more than anything, especially in market conditions like this, is money. And you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the example of, I can't tell you how many leaders took a role for some reason of maybe a nice dictator, maybe a soft dictator, but what they're doing is they're motivating without educating, right? They're not willing to set that example necessarily, or they've forgotten They don't think people need it or that people would want it. And they're not putting themselves in a place that say, hey, instead of, would you make your calls today, right? Hey, come in my office. Let's make a couple of calls together, listen to each other and role play, right? Hey, come in my office. I'm going to make the call to this one. And like you said, we're going to go out and meet them next week. Have them come into the office and I'm going to demonstration sell and reconnect you guys. Whatever that is as a leader in general, when you can help people ultimately make money, right? That you become very valuable to them. Yes, you could be a relationship and all of those things, but I can't tell you, Todd, how many people at the end of the day I have seen leave. And overall, it's because, and like you shared in a vulnerable way of, I know that I've missed the mark on this before, multiple times, right? I still sometimes find myself missing the mark where I'm like, did you do this or go do this? And then there's never any follow-up. And I don't pause and say, hey, instead of saying, did you make your calls or giving them yes and no's? Hey, let's make calls together. Let's listen to each other. Let's on the spot do some role play. Let's have some conversation about going out in the field and greeting people. You'll understand quickly if someone's doing something on repeat. And the way that we know that is when you go out about, if they're all of a sudden pulling back and barely able to look someone in the eye and have conversation, you know they're not going out and about very often, Todd, when they're, right? Like when someone can't role play, and role play is awkward, but if they gather themselves for a minute and get started, you know quickly if it rolls off their tongue, right? If they're able to get there, if they can overcome an objection, where they fall short. I wonder how many, if you're a branch manager right now, and you think about who you are leading, and let's say you have no team, you have a team and that's it, just you and your team. Okay, you're leading them. But let's say that you have multiple loan officers working for you. When was the last time you made a sales call with them? When was the last time you listened to them talk to a client about interest rates? When was the last time you really dug deep on what they said or what they did? It's no different than, I think you probably taught me this better than anybody, Todd, that leadership is really a form of parenting, right? And one of the things that you say often when people do well is like, I'm like a proud papa, right? Like there's something here. And I think to myself, you think about your own kids and there are the parents who say, oh, my kid's not getting good grades. And, I don't know what's going on. They said they turned in their stuff and the teacher isn't, getting it graded or whatever the case, right? They're not digging in. And I'll tell you what, I've had those kids, I'm sure you have too, where they're like, I turned it in. The teacher just hasn't graded it yet. It didn't take me very long to figure out, like, I don't have bad kids, but they do know how to manipulate, right? They will try to get away with something, especially when they're uncomfortable. Maybe the assignment was hard. Maybe they didn't understand it. Maybe they skipped a class and they don't want to admit it. Whatever's going on. Man, I go dig in. I email that teacher and I put them on the email. I call that teacher and bring my kids in face to face. I'll never forget the first time I marched all of my kids into parent-teacher conferences and made them sit next to me as I talked to them about what my kids said about the teacher. And I'll tell you what, my kids really quickly quit telling me lies about teachers because they knew their mama meant business, right? But at the end of the day, they grew through that, right? It wasn't you're terrible, you're out of my life, I'm no longer your mom. It was okay, now I see where my accountability needs to be and yours, and we're going to work together to solve this problem, and you're going to feel better at the end of it. It's no different in how we branch manage. Branch managers are not, if you have a problem, come to my door or text me. Branch managers are not, hey, I'm busy over here doing my stuff. How you doing? You okay? Okay, great. Branch managers are not, you're having a great month, you're having a bad month, I'll acknowledge, a little bit of the good, but I'll definitely question the bad and say you need to do more. That's not leadership. That's not even management if we're being honest with one another. And I think we've gotten lazy with it. I think we've gotten lazy with being highly accountable to them and making them highly accountable to us, but then adding in demonstration selling and true value alongside them. And I think when you have that and they start getting results, man, you just become not only a leader that they love to work for, but they know that other people should come work for you as well.
I got a great story around this that just happened. So, and when I'm about ready to tell you the story, I would not have done this a year ago. This is part of being humbled in the market and being like, okay, we really got to dig. So I'm talking to one of my loan officers. He's like, hey, I'm doing really good in this new office. And I said, hey, that's a good office, a real estate office. I said, that's a really good office. And he says, well, hey, I got to know this lady, and she is the manager for all 3 offices. So she manages 3 offices. So that I look up the 3 offices. These 3 offices combined, the last month in February of 2024, which is a slow month, closed 160 buy sides total, all 3. So he mentions her name, and I said, hey, and I know of her, but I've never met her personally. I said, what are the chances we can take her to dinner? He says, I'll ask. So he calls me the next day. So we got it booked. We're taking her to dinner. Not only are we taking her to dinner, we're taking the manager of the office that I'm in most. He's going with us. Right? So she's the big cheese. And then we got one of the other major players, who's a guy that I know. So we take him to dinner. The whole dinner, all I talk about is, hey, what do you need to win more? It's one of my favorite questions. What do you need to win? She says, Todd, if we could just get more of our offers accepted, it would be a big deal. Like I said, what do you mean big deal? She says, well, last month we did this many offers. We got this many accepted. If that could just increase 20%, we would close 30 more deals a month. So she knew her numbers. I said, what would that take? This is an hour conversation over a steak. Finally, she said, we drill down. And she says, I need a guaranteed 15-day close. I need the lender to put their money where their mouth is. So if we don't close within the agreed upon time frame, you pay $7,500 is what it came out to be. I need a $200 per day per diem. And then I need a fully approved loan before we make the offer. So we developed this offer. And then we had a second meeting. And now all she's doing is introducing us to all the big players in all 3 offices.
Your agents.
So that wouldn't have happened without me and the loan officer involved. Actually, Jim Reed helped as well. Involved in that process. Because if it would have just been a loan officer, like when she brought up the guarantee of money, the loan officer looked at me like, he ain't going to do that. And I'm thinking, no, I want business. I said, how many times would we pay that $7,500 once a year? Like realistically. So I'm like, yeah. So we got done after the first meeting. He says, we're riding in the car. He's all, I can't believe you agreed to that. I said, why wouldn't I? That's my client that closed 160 deals a month. Like I will paint her toenails if she wants.
Yeah.
So
but
anyway, that's
so
a
think
good story
about
about
in a vulnerable state, Todd. Let's be honest. And mind you, you're an owner and you're a rare owner. I'm just going to say that out loud. Like you're a rare owner. How many owners do you think right in their own backyard? Everybody kind of has their home ship branch, right? Their flag, down branch. And that, it happens to be right in your backyard. Obviously, that's where it all started 6-9 months ago. And I want to be vulnerable for a second with branch managers, just to say both happens. We all ebb and flow, right? I mean, in relationships in general, sometimes we fall off the horse, right? We just do. 6-9 months ago, we would have thought, why is that loan officer who's been doing this forever struggling so much? They really need to get their crap together, right? They really need to make some calls. They just really need to be better. And from a distance, we have these thoughts and ideas as a leader and get frustrated and maybe and maybe don't lean in. And one of the things that you are doing is realizing like, hey, from all of us, every single one of us, like we can't just sit and think about things and have feelings about them from the last 2 years. It is absolutely time to take action, right? To get back in connection, to start at the beginning. And so for you to have that conversation and then to lean all the way into let's go to dinner and all of those things, I think that I just want to hit on this as a leader. Yes, that account could be magic. Yes, you could end up with, right, like amazing things out of it. And that's the goal. But beyond that, the sales confidence in really knowing that there's alignment with who leads you, The sales confidence in knowing your leader has your back and is interested and invested in that growth alongside you for that loan officer is invaluable, because the way they have felt, right, the last couple of years is often like they are ashamed, they are disappointed, they are frustrated, they are saddened, they're all of these things. Failure comes to mind, right? Like all like too hard, too, whatever it is. And all of the sudden, sales confidence comes back. And so that account you helped with, but I'll tell you what, he'll go nail a few more as a result of it, even as a long time, very successful LO who got pretty quiet and shut down over the last couple of years. And we had two choices: let him float and drift right out of the company and chalk it up to didn't have what it takes anymore, or lean in the way you just did as a leader. And I will tell you, I learn that lesson frequently. I'm sure you do as well. I think that anybody listening's probably learned it and has an opportunity right now to go lean in versus let somebody drift away. And that's what I would encourage you to do as a branch manager.
Yeah, really well said. And guys, just a different way of saying that same thing is Robyn was being polite. We've all drifted. I know I drifted. And someone reminded me of the 5 stages of grief lately. Last weekend I pulled it up, and like, if you read that, I can't remember all the stages, but if you read it, find out where you're at on that 5 stages of grief.
Write it down.
Because it's sequential. Whether you go through divorce, a mortgage meltdown, whatever, you're gonna go through those 5 stages. And some people go through it in a few weeks, some people a few months, some people a few years. But if you can quicken that pace, that's what it takes. And what gets you through it faster is taking more action.
Yeah.
Right. So I know that we've all been kind of stuck. I think that's a fair statement. I know some of the best people in the industry, and they're like, all the feelings, all the craziness. I get it. But what we can learn from these times is incredible. What we can do coming out of this is incredible. And yeah, things will change and evolve, but as long as we're open to doing that, we'll be fine. So I really appreciate that. If you wanted an assignment, if you're a branch leader, area leader, divisional, make it a goal to say, I'm going to go on 4 sales calls a week with my people. It could be that simple. They will love you for it. Like, it's a big deal. I called a home builder yesterday for one of my guys I'm recruiting and got an appointment with the builder. I was teasing him. I said, if I can get an appointment, because I kind of know the builder, I said, if I can get this appointment and get you the account, will you come work for Summit? He laughs and he said, yeah. I literally called the builder, got the appointment. He said, he was texting me last night. He's like, you're like, he called me Yoda. You like Yoda. He says, you really got the appointment. I said, we're going on the appointment next week.
You know what's fun, Todd? You're having fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's fun to get back into that mode, right? Like, even as a leader, right? Like, we have a lot of important things to do as a leader, but I don't think there's anything more important than staying in the game alongside your people and making sure they win. The rest will figure itself out.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thank you guys very much. If something's coming up where you're listening to this stuff, you're like, hey, I may want to work for them someday, shoot us a message. It'll be confidential, but if that comes up, don't be bashful. I think there's a lot of stuff going out there. I think Summit's one of the best mid-sized mortgage banks in the country. And we're proud of that. And I'm not bashful about it. Like, we're damn good. Yeah. So if you want to come into a sales-based organization, make a lot of money and have a lot of fun, reach out to us if the need arises for you. Have a beautiful month. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Robyn.